G'day guys, I've got this old Hitachi battery drill here which I've had for about 15 years. Unfortunately the old Ni-Cad batteries are next to useless, so in today's project let's convert them to lithium ion. Then I can keep using the drill which is still in perfectly good working order. We also need a BMS to complete this project. The role of a BMS is to individually monitor and charge each lithium-ion cell in a battery pack so that none of them overcharge or discharge, which is very bad and can cause them to overheat, degrade quickly and spontaneously catch on fire. You absolutely need one. You can see this one is a 4S 40 amp rated BMS. This means it can take care of 4 cells and discharge it up to 40 amps. Then I'll need 4 of these lithium ion batteries. There's loads of different ones you can buy. These particular ones come with pre-soldered tabs, which are kind of handy. So I'll need 4 of those. Making 650s. And I'll need some of this wire as well. Don't have to use silicone flexible wire, it's just easier, I find, for squeezing it all in. This is at 16 gauge. I may bump it up to 14 actually, we'll see. Cool, so yeah, we'll set those to the side. Come back to them in a minute. Let's remove the cover off this old battery. So this is the old one. That just slides out nice and easy. So I'll set the case aside. Now, we need to retain this. This is a overheat protection, so that if you're charging or using it and it gets too hot, it will interrupt the circuit and stop charging or discharging. So we'll desolder that. And then we also need to take a look at that. Nice bit of Ni-Cad corrosion coming into there. So just be careful of any leaking liquids or crystals getting on your skin. Might not be good for you. But yeah, we're going to take out all these wires, and you really want to make sure that you identify which wire comes off where, which one's positive, which one's negative, so that when you solder on the new ones, you don't stuff it up and end up breaking your drill. So, we'll cut the tape. And do this carefully so I don't cut the wrong thing or myself. Cool. Right, fortunately for me, on the battery case is marked positive and negative. So what I'm going to do, so I don't forget, I'm going to mark it on here as well. Positive and negative side. Cool. Alright, so your battery may be different, but most of them, if they're made properly, should be spot welded. So you can see down inside there, that's been spot welded, and under all that goo there, that will be spot welded. That's been soldered on that wire. But any tab connecting to a battery should be spot welded, and then that's what we're going to do today as well. So to unspot weld something, You'll need a flat screwdriver or a blade or whatever you choose to do. Just be careful. And I should also say that you should make sure that your battery is fully discharged before you go ahead and do any work on it like this, so you don't end up zapping yourself or having a big accident, which would be bad. This has been sitting unused for quite a long time, so it's very definitely flat. Right, I'm not going to ruin my knife. I'm going to get a flat blade screwdriver like I should. Right, and then we just pry it in there, get it underneath that tab, and just carefully lever it off and break that spot weld. There's that one done. Cool. Yeah. So we can get rid of the old Ni-Cads responsibly in a place that disposes of old batteries. Then we'll hang on to these. And this is just, I'm pretty sure this is the temperature sensor. I thought this is the temperature sensor. Anyway, not quite sure. Find out what it is and let you know in the subtitles which one's which. This part doesn't really matter on my battery because I'm not actually going to be soldering it directly back onto the battery anyway. This is going to be soldered to wires, but that'll do. Alright. And this is how I did the other one. It's so long since I did it. I had to pull it apart and just double check how I did it. But yeah, I'll just copy that same design on the next one. However, with this one, I soldered the tabs to the batteries, which is not a great idea. I mean, you can do it, but you've got to be so careful you don't overheat and damage the batteries. So since then, I have got a spot welder, cheap Chinese one. I'll put a link up in the corner for the video that I did of that spot welder, and I'm going to use that on the second battery today. The spot welding tabs to batteries is a far better way of doing it. Okay, so here's the way I laid out the other one. We have the negative of the first battery here, which is going to go to connect to the start of our BMS, which is marked as 0 volts. The positive of that side is going to be connected to the 4.2 on that side. Then the negative of the next battery is going to be soldered to the end of that number 1 battery. At this point I started waffling nonsense and confusing myself, so I drew this diagram and I'll show you now how I wire it up. You'll notice that the 4 cells are connected in series so that we can add the individual voltages to get 14.8 to 16.8 volts. The negative of the first cell is connected to the pad marked 0 on the BMS. The positive of this cell is connected to the negative of the second cell and the BMS pad marked 4.2 volts. As we know, each 18650 cell is 3.7 to 4.2 volts. The positive of the second cell is connected to the BMS pad marked 8.4 volts and the negative of the third cell. The positive of the third cell to the 12.6 volt pad and the negative of the fourth cell. And finally the positive of the fourth cell to the pad marked 16.8 volts. Phew, we made it. Rewind back to this part if you need to see it again when we come to connect these up. So what I found was quite useful for orientating these in the right position is using some tape and some hot glue to hold them together in the right orientation because of these leads, and so they don't all keep folding on themselves and being a pain. The other thing I also did was I put some foam underneath the BMS, in between the BMS and the batteries. I felt that it would help to isolate it from the metal cases of the batteries and stop any of the soldered legs from pushing against the case of the batteries and during use and being dropped on the ground or whatever and damaging the batteries. So I'll do that as well. Here you can see the cause of that sparking sound. This is a great example of what not to do. The end of this black wire, which is connected to the positive terminal of cell 2, briefly contacted the negative of cell 1, creating a short circuit. Naughty boy. I should be more careful. Now I'm soldering on a 22 gauge extension wire to that temperature sensor thingy. Next I'll solder the battery tabs to the BMS pads. Now I'm cutting and attaching the main 16 gauge wires which will take the power from the BMS to the battery contacts. And now I'm extending the thermal cutout wires as well. It's always a good idea to check all the points with the multimeter to make sure you haven't stuffed it up. Looks good to me. At this point I realised the solder just wasn't going to stick to the tabs, so I got the Dremel out to clean them up a bit. Due to that fourth cell being so close to the screw posts, we're going to have to grind away these parts on the top half of the battery case. I'll copy what I've done on the first battery here. Because my battery cells don't go up the neck of the case like the old Ni-Cad ones did, I designed this thing in Fusion 360 and 3D printed it in PLA. It works perfectly to hold the contacts assembly up the top so it doesn't slide back down. At this point I remembered from when I did the other battery that these BMSs have a safety feature that prevents you making sparks while assembling the battery. It cuts the output down to about 4 volts until you put it in the charger for the first time, then it unlocks the BMS and it does the full output. So that's easy fixed. Pop it in the charger for 10 seconds and now we have the full 14.4 volts. Win! Don't forget to give it a full first charge before using it too. The added bonus of this upgrade is a fairly significant weight saving. The old battery weighed about 610 grams and our new lithium ion battery weighs 365 grams. That's a 40% weight reduction. Pretty good considering we have also seriously increased the performance too. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, share and check out my other DIY videos too. If you think I've earned it, there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. Stay safe and I'll catch you next time.